This is the Collecting Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Purse, here with your co-host, Bill Hamill.
I'm somewhat more comfortable collecting real estate than I am collecting other stuff. Welcome everybody to the Collecting Real Estate Podcast. I'm very, very excited about our guest this morning, Jason Yarusi from Yarusi Holdings. Very, very impressed. I was just discussing with Jason that I'm continuously amazed by what some people are accomplishing that I talk to on I don't want to say a regular basis, but certainly periodic basis. Jason has accumulated over 200 million assets under management, exceeding 2,000 apartments. And he is from, this is my challenge. I didn't run it by him. He is from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. How did I do on that, Jason?
You did good. Murfreesboro, Tennessee. So yeah, I'm here now, but I was born and raised in New Jersey.
Gotcha. And I noticed that too. I was going to ask you about that New Jersey multifamily club, but we'll get back to that. But right now, please tell the audience a bit about yourself, your background in real estate.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you having me. I'm excited to be here. And, we started in the multifamily space back in 2016, and it was a trial of errors of just finding our route in the world. Previous to that, I met my wife in New York City as bartenders back in the early 2000s. And we went through a series of working in bars, running and opening restaurants and owning restaurants and bars and even a brewery that I sold at one time before transitioning into the family construction business when Hurricane Sandy happened back in the early 2010s. And what we found is that we were just constantly doing jobs that were service jobs, that we had to show up to be able to do some task that would, of course, trade time for money. And that part was good on paper. It was what we knew, it was what we did until we found and were awakened to the idea that we didn't want to do it anymore. And what we kept coming back to was real estate. And at the time, my wife was pregnant, and we did what we thought was logical, right? She went out and got a real estate license, started flipping homes, wholesaling homes, and that was good until we discovered that, again, we were just trading time for money, right? We were not systemizing, we were not putting it away, we were just doing tasks to get money. And we constantly wanted to get back to just controlling our time. And what that did was push us and force us to find a solution. And that solution became rentals. And at first, we thought it was small rentals. We met someone doing this out of state, and they were buying, single family houses. And we started replicating that, doing 2s and 3s, 2 units, 3 units, and 4 units. And that was that first aha moment, because instead of us having to do each and every task, we were able to go out there and leverage our ability to put people in the right place so they could maximize on their potential, and we could manage a project and benefit from the economies of scale. However, doing it across a number of different, duplexes or triplexes, we just could not and knew we were not going to really maximize that project. We just did not see a way that we could logically do it. So we kept asking what else was there, and we came upon large multifamily investing back in 2016. And that was that first moment where that light bulb went off. We said, this is it. Dove all in, put all of our energy in that, sold off any of the small properties, stopped flipping houses, went all into that, and brought our first 94 unit, and that was in 2017. And that was really the start of the road that's now led us down this path to where we are here today.
Excellent. I love that journey. Many of us have I don't want to say similar journeys, but we start with very, very hard work. In your case, you and your wife, bartenders, restaurants. I did the same thing for 10 years early on as I was building up a small portfolio. And that hard work translates into more hard work, which is real estate investing. But at that point, or at this point, we're no longer trading time for money. That's the beauty of real estate. Seeing that you were doing the 2, 3, 4 units up until 2016, were you swinging the hammer? Were you managing those properties? Were you utilizing the leverage of other people's labor on those small properties?
Yeah, so the one bonus we had is we started doing those 1,000 miles away from where we were in New Jersey. So there was no way for us to be active in the project. So it forced us to put in the process, right? So got contractors, got a property manager, put together the system in a in a roundabout way until we could really systemize it like we do today. And then that process really was able to identify. What we didn't like about that is that just having a number of duplexes, say, 20, 30, 50 duplexes around a state or around a city seemed laborious, right? It did not seem like that was going to be scalable and actionable because we would always be limited really by our resources, right? And what you love about large multifamily, you're able to maximize, right? Have a 100-unit building, you can have a full-time staff that can afford to be able to handle the property in real time.
And getting into the 2, 3, 4 units from so far away, I'm wondering what the dynamic was on that. Hiring property managers, hiring maintenance. Was part of the struggle with all those additional costs, limiting your cash flow on the small properties where you just didn't see the growth that you needed?
No, actually, they were cash flowing great. It was more just the logistics of having all these properties all over the place that if we, need to fix something, all of a sudden we got to find a plumber that might have to be in that county, that we have to run out there to hopefully see if they have the part in the truck. And if they don't have the part in the truck, then if they run back to the store. And by the time they do that, something that's a $15 repair becomes $600, right? And so from that fact, we knew that was going to limit our ability to really scale because proactively we would be catching fires, right? Or catching disasters instead of really having something organized and systemized.
Excellent. And I know so many of our audience, or a lot of the audience, people who are just starting and they do still own that small portfolio or a growing portfolio of small properties. So this is a nice value add for them for you to explain how you went from that portfolio of smaller properties. How did you get into that 94 units? Can you explain in detail how you were able to make that big jump?
Yeah, it was a choice. And that's simply it. It was just a choice. Because when you think about it, like a 10 unit and a 100 unit, they're really just the same steps. Everything there is the same steps, and you would think that the risk factor is much higher in the 100 unit, but it actually gives you more leverage and more benefit. And it also more favor, right? Whether it be from just everything that you can maximize from the cash flow to depreciation, tax benefits, debt pay down, right? You can benefit from a larger property compared to a smaller property. It also looks better and is more favorable to a lender, right? Because it can help them on economies of scale. You also get more professional property manager, right? So we started looking at that and it all made sense, right? I've had small restaurants and large restaurants. Let's just, we'll do a context of restaurants. If I have a 10-unit restaurant or I have a 50-unit restaurant, right? We still have the same window open for dinner, right? So dinner might be, 5 to 8 o'clock, right? So if I have 10 seats or I have 50 seats, I can only leverage how much economies of scale I can get. And I can only turn 10 seats so many times in those 3 hours. Where I have 50 seats, I can maximize it, right? So although I have more costs, I have more ability to make revenue. Where on the smaller property, I'm capped on my upside to create revenue.
Okay, I certainly appreciate that economies of scale and scaling in general. What did it take, though? Did you have to add to your team? Did you have to structure a deal differently? How did you capitalize to get into the 94 unit? Explain some of that.
So today we have an acquisition person, we have an underwriter, we have investor relations, we have social media, right? The acquisition, due diligence, admin, right? So we have a pretty robust team today. At that time, it was myself and my wife, right? And it was a choice to say, we're going to go out there and do it, right? So we started learning everything we could about large multifamily and said, okay, this is the direction we're going to take. How do people do this? And there was really just two ways we kept coming along. One was you just go out there and buy it yourself, which we weren't going to be able to do at the time, or you use syndication. And syndication is basically pulling resources from others so we can all benefit from the economies of scale. So what we started doing is learning where did we want to invest. And at that time, it was Louisville, Kentucky. Specifically, where in Louisville, we wanted to invest in the southeast submarkets because that's where there was a lot of workforce housing. What do we want to focus on? 75 to 150 units. Right? Because that gave us the best scale and also could give us the best teams and also made sense from a property management company. Okay, how are we going to look at this? Well, we saw a lot of other investors doing a model where they would offer a preferred return and a split of equity. Right? So at that time, it was an 8% preferred return, a 70% to limited partners on top of that, and a 30% return, 30% split path letter or promote to the sponsors. So we said, okay, that's the model we're going to go after. So we prepared a pitch deck, which basically was a one-page piece of paper we started going out there to our investors, talking to them about what we're going to do, what we're going to find, because we wanted to engage them to allow them to understand what we're doing. Because here we're coming from the construction world, the bar world, and it was all friends and family who knew us from that space, but they had to understand why we're doing this and why we're so excited about it, and then ultimately how it benefits them. At the same time, we started taking that bracket, going out there to our network, our brokers, and then introducing ourselves to property managers to allow them to know what we wanted. So no longer was it just us searching for it. We were now enabling a team. That team was now helping us find what we wanted. So in this sense now, we have people, brokers, property managers, all these different partners here who are out there being boots in the ground, who are now engaging to bring us back assets that are going to fit that. So we ended up finding this off market through a property manager who had known that the owner had just passed away. He was in his 90s. The kids were up in their 60s. And so this opportunity came in front of us. And this was our first potential point that we were actually going to make a deal. We had offered on some properties in the past. We had gone through some steps, but this one modeled it out. It was I think we raised just shy of $800,000 at that time. But we had already done the work to build that investor roster. So by the time we got it up, we got I think it was a Fannie Mae loan at the time. It was an odd 7.6 ARM loan, which was very interesting at the time. Very little CapEx. The building was handled well. It was more of an operations play where we could go in there and maximize on just loss to lease, better marketing, better operations, capitalize on a lot of different other income streams, and then moderate on expenses. So we went in there, took a lot of action. We're able to maximize on that action. And that was a great project for us. We were able to go in there after 13 months. We refied, cashed out the investors, and they were still in the deal, but were able to return their capital. I think after 25 or 26 months, we were able to sell that for a very good multiple.
Yeah, and then you build the momentum, and here you are now, 2,000 units later. Getting back to getting into that 94 units, seeing that you use syndication, you did the capital raise properly. It's not like you just waited to get that deal and then start calling around looking to raise money for that deal. You explained that you had already warmed up, so to speak, your potential investors. So when you found that deal, they were ready for that phone call. What did that look like leading from the small properties to that 94 unit? Did you get coaching? Did you get join a mentorship group? What gave you that education which provides that confidence?
So there's a couple. I did go out there and find a coach who was doing this proactively, right? And that's the word, proactively. And then just started really putting the blinders on to every other part of real estate. You can do any kind of part of real estate. Today, you could go to a meetup and it could be tax liens. Next week it's flipping. Next week it's wholesaling. Next week it's Airbnb. Next week it's midterm rentals. Next week it's small multifamily. Next week it's out of state investing. Next week it's virtual wholesaling, and the story goes on, right? And if you go down that train, you're going to try and do it all, but you're never going to do it all successfully, right? But if you stay here in focus lands and put all of your energy into one path, that is going to enable you to have the best process and the best plan, and then take action. And that's going to separate you from the pack in a big way.
Yeah, I agree. So it's all about focus, that momentum, that focus. And tell me, is multifamily the only asset class that you and your team focuses on at this point?
We have 80% of multifamily, so value add multifamily, and then we have, of the other 20%, we have storage, we have office, and we have development that's here locally in Tennessee.
All right, and Tennessee being super hot market, but a great market. I'm sure it's competitive, but you certainly haven't had any problem accumulating some units. How do you go from that 94 unit purchase to over 2,000 units today in such a short period of time, in such a competitive market?
I have friends that brought 3,500 units last year. So if you think about it, you have to think of all the own context of what it is, right? I actually think my path is, I have slowed my path and it could be accelerated, right? So it's all the shift of the mind of where you want to be at. And our goal all along has been do a deal a quarter. And that means that not to do just any deal, but we would put our energy to put the steps in place to keep ourselves accountable. Now, has that always been to the T? No. Sometimes we do a deal first quarter, and then we don't do a deal the second quarter. We don't do a deal the third quarter, and we do 3 in the fourth quarter, right? It comes as it goes. Last year, I think we had 7 acquisitions, and we had 4 dispositions, right? So on that front, it's going to go in the ways we want, but we want to continue to put the energy out there so we can do a deal a quarter. Now, at that point, that served to keep us responsible and focused on and continuing to increase, right? Because right now the goal is to get to 5,000, right? We get the 5,000 units that we've acquired, then we'll look at that next goal, right? But let's keep the steps and keep upping those steps. So usually, big numbers sound on paper where, the 2 unit might sound hard, or the 94 unit might sound hard, or 2,000 units sound hard until you do it. And then the next step is, okay, what's the next step I need to do to continue to accelerate, right? And that's usually the biggest piece, is the mindset piece.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt, with who might can all things in life, it's all about the mindset piece if you want to grow like this. And I love how you were able to get to the 1,900 units with systems, teams. What was the most effective thing in your mind got you to that 1,900 units?
Stubbornness, I think would be it. Stubbornness would be it. That's helped and hurt, right? Be stubborn to your approach, stick to your guns, be focused. And what I have done is I've hired too slow. Now we've hired quickly, right, to bring more people under help. But that's one of the points, is that we do want to do it ourselves. We get stuck in the point, and just because you can do it 100 and someone else can do it 80, well, if you have 10 things you need to do and you only do one 100 and the other 10 or the other 9 you're at 0. Well, now it's better to have someone do the other thing at that's a 0 at 80 and at least push it forward, right? But now we've put good people on, great people around us that really dialed into what their role is here in the team. And that's helped us expand, because now we can all focus on our best action for that day.
Okay. And you've created that conveyor belt where you have purchased a lot of properties over the past couple of years, but you've also sold a lot of properties in the last couple of years, but still trying to get up to 5,000 units. So, you got to keep that conveyor belt moving along. Have you been able to just stay on the acquisitions, capital raising side, or have you vertically integrated into property management? What does that look like?
We manage 3 of our assets. So we manage an office building. We manage, I'll say 4. We manage an office building, which is 5 buildings. We manage 63 storage units. We manage a 36 unit, and we manage a 29 unit. So the reason we do that is because we found that we're better in that space than the property managers we can find in those markets, right? And that's just the blatant truth. We don't take on, so even here in my town, right, we have a 93 unit, we have a 64 unit, we have a property manager that handles them. We don't do those properties because they are very dialed in, very, very versed, great at larger assets. So they run with the ball. We focus now on our space for the property management, and it was more a need than a want. Our goal was not to do that, but we knew as we grew, we were going to have to empower this to happen, and that was one of the steps.
Let me ask you, were there challenges with that third-party property manager to get to that current manager that you're saying is dialed in? We're knowing that you manage some of your properties and you have a great property manager now. Was there a learning curve through that? What I found in my career was being a manager for a long, long time and then hiring third-party managers, seeing how so many of them did things differently, different quality. What was your experience there?
So we have different managers in different cities, right? And so for us, depending where we are, like in North Carolina, we have one property manager. In Georgia, we have another property manager. In Tennessee, we have another property manager, because we find that the community or regional property manager is much better than a nationwide or larger property manager, someone who can cover everywhere. So for that, we're very focused to make sure we find the right partner that's very intimate with the market. Now, just like anything, my dad always said the third time you work with someone, it will always go sour. Not always the case, but at that point, just because they start great today does not mean they will be dialed into the future, right? We had a group in Louisville, Kentucky. We had 3 projects with them. Amazing. They started to have infrastructure, the property management company. They started to have management issues and fights between the owners on the 4th property. Nothing to do with us, but it really started to deter their ability to perform. So we had a transition, right? And so the point is just make sure that you understand if you are going to hire third-party management, they are everything, because you can have the best plan, but if there is nobody there that can implement it effectively, it doesn't matter what your plan is.
Yeah, without a doubt. Knowing that you've grown very, very quickly, and it's in a syndicate, are all your properties in the syndication model?
No. So we have some as partnerships, some we just own. So we'll say in that model, 75% syndications, and the other are a mix of partnerships and self-owned.
Gotcha. So as you continue to grow, your database continues to grow. Do you have systems for capital raising? Because I know that my capital raise till now, I'm still focusing in on 506B. Having a degree of success for sure.
Yeah.
And knowing that those first 2 or 3 deals being successful certainly does give great momentum. But a lot of people tend to invest in 1 or 2 deals, and your investors, some can't continue to invest in every deal.
Correct.
So what does your capital raising system look like till now?
So, I mean, that's completely true, right? Now, the 506B model means that you're going to go more to friends and family. They're going to be sophisticated and some accredited up to a max of 35 sophisticated investors. Now, that said, that is, if you could do that all the time, you keep doing it, right? Because the best thing there is that friends and family invest, but at some point, they may get maxed out. If they're in one deal, they get in the second deal, maybe by the third deal, their money is in your deals until it comes back to them. That's fine. What we've found is that we've been able to continue to build that database. We do a lot of marketing, a lot of newsletters, a lot of points of energy. However, some of the best things you can get is a referral from other people, right? So ultimately for us, we look to ask our current investors, is there anybody else who we think that this would benefit to, right? And that's some of the best pieces of the puzzle, because that helps us build. When you go to the 506C model, another viable option, you can openly solicit accredited investors. However, you are now competing against the wide world, right? So many times people think the solution is the 506C. However, you are now competing against you're in a larger ocean, right? And nobody knows you, right? So if you're looking at us versus a realty mogul or a Fundrise or at some of these other very big groups that are out there, we're all competing in the same pool, right? So they have to make the choice. Okay, I want to be with Yarusi Holdings for this reason, right? And a lot of that is our ability to one, have performance, but also 2, have very good investor relations, very good systems and follow up.
Gotcha. And seeing that you've done a lot in Tennessee, do you feel the need to expand into other markets to continue your growth strategy?
We are in some, but again, you can't be everywhere, right? You can be anywhere, but you can't be everywhere, right? And so we want to be we want to be careful into the markets that we're underwriting, because we don't want to go into every market, because it exposes us to just not having teams in place in those markets.
You have to be able to operate. You're making sure that you have patience, getting into the right deals. That's the name of the game. And even if you have the right deal, as you mentioned, you have to be able to operate that deal, or else you can screw that deal up. Knowing that you're from New Jersey, I did notice, doing a little bit of prep for you, you founded the New Jersey Multifamily Live Club. What does that look like, and what do you think about the Jersey market? Are you still investing in that location?
No, we're not in New Jersey. We didn't start doing large multifamily in New Jersey for a lot of reasons, right? Older properties, rougher infrastructure, higher taxes, higher utilities, not landlord friendly, right? And the list goes on. Plus the cost or price per pound is prohibitive to the rent you can get, right? So for that reason, we started looking in other areas. There's a lot of reasons why New Jersey is great, right? All in all. However, that said, we chose to do other markets. We started a meetup, and the meetup was more subjectively, just like I said earlier, is that all the meetups we were going to just weren't really meeting our interests. They were on anything and everything, and we just wanted multifamily. There wasn't that option out there for us to get together, so we collectively started doing it.
Yeah, awesome. And I see that you work hand in hand with your wife, Pili. She's the co-founder. What's her role in your business?
She's investor education. She's great with really giving people the energy and emphasis and understanding of what we do here, and also helping them make the right decisions. Right, the decision today does not always have to be invest with us. Right now, it may not be to invest with us at all because they need to make the best choices. So what Pili does is empower them to be able to make the best choice for them in their investing future.
Excellent, excellent. And your role, what is your daily focus? What is your day and week look like?
So different parts of the week, right? So like Thursdays is all energy to all properties. We have all property calls on Thursday. A lot of my side does go on acquisitions and capital raise, right? That's where I put my energy. However, being the oversight on the piece of the puzzle, I fall into a lot of different buckets depending on where it is, right? There is no balance. There is just where there is seasons. Right now, we're closing a property right at the end of the year. So a lot of my energy is going to go in there and make sure everything's buttoned up for taking that property on. Right. So that's a big point. This week we have investor updates going out. So that's a big focus to make sure all of that's sized in.
Awesome. Awesome. And I noticed that, I have a buying criteria and as of right now, I'm trying to just focus on those value add, high rent growth deals. I feel like going into this uncertain time, that keeps me very, very confident, very, very bullish, knowing that there's so many properties out there with that rent growth potential from the rent growth over the last 2 or 3 years. We're still able to find those, what some people would say, a needle in a haystack, where we're able to find that property where the rents are at $700, but the market's at $1,200. What's your buying criteria and template? Are you just rinsing and repeating the same template over and over again?
We look to. We've started the trend to newer assets because we found on the value add side, we were the expectation of price and valuation was too high compared to the cost you had to put in there, where we were able to go in there and buy newer vintage and have to put less CapEx into the property, but also have more predictable cost control and then do more on the operations and marketing focus to be able to improve the property.
Yeah, and I see that you focus on operating efficiencies, I'm talking about pure rent growth. Explain in detail, where do you see those operating efficiencies? What are the most common items that people can look for there?
In terms of rent, or are we talking income? I'll go both ways.
On the expense side, the rents, in this environment now, it's going in, being familiar with your market, knowing what the market rents are. So when you look at an asset, you can clearly see that there's rent growth potential on a deal, which is, of course, fantastic, getting that revenue up. But on that expense side, what is the most common line items that you're able to get those efficiencies so you can bring those operating expenses down?
You can look at a lot of things, right? So you can look at insurance. Are they paying attention to their insurance premiums, right? You may be able to go out there and market and have a better relationships and have better cost control on your insurance. You can look at utilities. Is there a reason your utilities are so high? Can some of these utilities be passed off to, of course, the tenants? On operations, right? Maintenance. Is there reasons that their maintenance is running control? Is there something you could take on from the CapEx side to do something as a one-time cost that may have a cost, but at the same time is going to save you for a lot of money into the future? Is there different things you can do on terms to be more in replication mode, so your turns get to be a more predictable cost, that you start having your turns number bring down? From the point of marketing, is there something on that that can be handled more proficiently that can help the overall operation? On everything from contracts. Are they reviewing their contracts? Do they know right now that their landscape contract is 20% more than a market, right? Same thing with garbage, right? Are they paying attention to those? And then lastly, payroll, right? Do they have the right teams in place? Now, it doesn't always mean, like, sometimes expenses need to go up to run it properly, right? And so you need to know, like, is the property not operating efficiently because they're not putting in the cost to run it efficiently?
Yeah, that makes sense. I understand that, whether the payroll might go up to get the manpower to get some of those other efficiencies properly done. Underwriting some of those bigger deals for me, I always focused in on that payroll. Managing for so long, seeing that payroll and looking at that amount, but then getting granular on that, seeing how many people are involved in that, for example, 150 unit building. Do you see that as being one of the major ones where a property that you're looking at, it's just overstaffed on that 150 unit where you're able to go
No,
in? No.
not necessarily. It depends, right? It really goes. You just need to have the right staff. So it's more. It's more. I don't know. It's so much under or overstaffed, but more having the right team, right? Because you could have, one person can do the job of two. You could have two people that are needed because the one person is trying to do too many jobs, right? It's really having the most effective team in place.
How often do you buy a multifamily where there's a property manager in place? You're looking at that payroll and that staff. How often do you go in there and just change the systems around, keep the same players in relation to just coming into an asset, seeing the efficiencies, and having to completely clear out that current staff and start with a new company?
We are typically not keeping the staff. And it's nothing to do that, but if we're going to come in there and put rebranding on it and new change, it's hard to keep the existing ownership. And sometimes nothing against them. It's just actually just taking energy to make it happen.
Yeah, part of that rebranding. Okay, let's talk about that a little bit. Some people would say, yeah, I rebranded my multifamily complex by just replacing a sign. What does rebranding look like to you?
It depends on the asset, but past that, it goes everything, right? Your website, your social pages, your Google page, right? There's a lot of the back end to set the stage for what that rebranding is meant to do.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. One thing I did notice also, I jumped on your LinkedIn page and I see that you get up every morning at 4:32 a.m. Not 4:30, not 5, 4:32. What does that mean to you?
I just need to set the stage where I can start to control my day. All right. And if you just say, I'll just get up early tomorrow, I'll get up at 5:30, there's no reason you just can't get up at 5:35 or 5:25, right? But 4, 3, 2, 1, go. It just gives me a reason to just get up. Because once you're up, you're no longer just lying down, right? So get up, get out of bed. Typically, we don't hit the snooze button for 10 more minutes and say, you know what, that's perfect, I feel better. There's almost no purpose to it.
Excellent. So there is a rhyme or reason to that. It's the 4, 3, 2, 1, and that's part of your morning routine, part of getting into your mindset. What else do you do? That creates a proper mindset to operate at this level.
When I just want to control my morning because the rest of it can be unpredictable, right? So if that sets the stage, I typically just will get up early, have a large glass of water, drink coffee, meditate, work out. And by that time, I've set the stage to create wins in my day that I can now take the next step to go out there and now focus on the events ahead.
No, I understand that. I do similar things. I do a morning routine, which has a bit of that in there, some journaling, and then I run at night, which I seem to really enjoy. Seeing that you're an ultra runner, how are you able to do ultra running and spend so much time in your business? How does your day look like to find time for all of this?
Just discipline to a choice, right? So that's why we'll get up early to do it, just like anything else, right? We do waste a lot of time in our day. So the more that we can just look at the white space in our calendar and say, okay, how can I eliminate that and put my energy into it? You'll find that time.
Gotcha. 3 other words I saw, and I'd like to see what these mean to you and how the listeners can incorporate this into their business. Value, vision, and versatility.
So ultimately on this point, you need to know where you're going. You need to know how you can improve that path. And then you have to be versatile to react to the challenges that come upon your path to get to your destination.
Excellent. Love that answer. And growing your business and knowing that you have to get team members, we need to grow to continue to build that economies of scale. What are you looking for if you have a need for someone to be added to your team? Are you looking for a younger person who is got a passion for real estate and the curiosity for real estate, or are you looking to take on experienced real estate people onto your team when you do have some needs for added personnel?
It's going to be the best person for that position. Doesn't have to be trained or not. It's going to be the right person for the right energy, for the right that pain point that I have at that time.
Makes sense. I'm hiring right now myself, and I've got people calling me, and I'd like your opinion on this. I got people calling me. They have decent resumes but in other industries, and they just want to get into real estate. And then I'm looking at others that have been in the real estate business, the property management business for quite some time, and I want someone with experience, but I'm intrigued by some of the desire people with not having as much experience. What are your thoughts on that?
You can say you're a plumber and you've been doing plumbing for 20 years, but every year you do it wrong. Well, then 20 years doesn't matter because you've just been doing it wrong for 20 years. So it depends on their level of experience and how it can be utilized and how it can be optimized for what you need.
No, I understand. And it comes back down to that other answer is, learning about that person and filling that need accordingly, after a proper interviewing process and go with your gut and who you're going to be most comfortable with. Jason, this is the Collecting Real Estate podcast. They say you have to have 3 of something to make a collection. So we have 3 questions for you to finish this up. Number 1, in 5 words or less, what's the most important thing you've learned since collecting real estate?
Focused action.
Focus and action. Love that. 2 words. I brought up the value, vision, and versatility as I was saying that. I'm like, I hope I'm not stealing his answer to number 1. Number 2, what are your 1 to 2 year personal goals?
This year, a lot meant with family. Pick my kids up every day because there's going to be one day when they're going to be too big to pick up, right? Run 2 more ultras this year, get to that 5,000 unit mark, have date night with my wife.
Awesome. So goes back to what we were talking about 5-10 minutes ago is how you're able to run this business, how you're able to do ultra marathons, but at the same time, you're able to pick your kids up at school, take advantage of that valuable family life. And that's what we're trying to do. Real estate gives us that potential freedom where you're able to do everything. Is that basically what you're trying to accomplish? You can focus in on the most important things in your life, and real estate gives you that ability.
It does give us a lot of advantages in life, right? And that's what we wanted. We wanted to be able to control our day. And for that reason, that's what we focused on.
All right. Jason's on his race to 5,000 units. Based on his momentum till now, there's no doubt that he's going to get there. Just a matter. How long is that going to take you to get to 5,000?
2025.
2025. All right. 2 more years. Last question for you, Jason. How can we and the listeners assist you? How can we contact you? What would you like to promote? Stages for you.
Sure. Yeah, if you come over to yarusiholdings.com, YARUSI Holdings.com, you can find everything about our company. You can find our Multifamily Live Podcast, our 7-figure Multifamily Mastermind to learn more about for real estate investing into large multifamily. But come there. You can find a lot about us, and we'd like to talk to you if you are looking to invest as well.
All right. Excellent. You can find Jason Yarusi at those platforms. What ultra marathons are we training for this year?
I am usually find and go. So I don't know the next one until I find it, and then I go.
That's funny. I gave my wife a magazine the other night. It's the Triathlon magazine, and I got to get something else to her. And
nice.
said, because we race nearby in New York most of the time, doing the same thing over and over again. And what I'm learning from a coach of mine is, hey, Bill, do something different. Get out of that comfort zone. Travel in different spots that you haven't been. So I just gave her the magazine and said, hey, pick a few spots nationwide that we haven't been, and I'll go and torture myself. So that's our plan this year. I'm not sure what that looks like or where it's going to be, but I'm excited about it. But I appreciate having you on, Jason. We'd love to stay in touch.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good day.
You too.